Star Citizen Alpha 3.16.1 is making its way through the PTU pretty quickly. We've had another patch for it and a statement from Cloud Imperium about the new derelicts and wrecks in 3.16.1, and I also wanted to talk a little bit about the Starmap Rework, or at least some statements that Cloud Imperium have made on that. So let's start by looking at the Alpha 3.16.1 patch watch that talked about wrecks and derelicts. As we approach the release of 3.16.1, our teams are continuing to work on various improvements and bug fixes that you'll get to experience very soon. So we want to take this opportunity to highlight some updates to the derelict ship missions, which include more points of interest scattered across various planets in Stanton. Once these new variants are live, you'll be able to explore and navigate through wreckages while avoiding deadly laser trip mines to recover the valuable cargo inside. These derelict spaceships include newly added activities such as traversal challenges that may reward players handsomely. This is the first implementation of laser trip mines, deadly explosives that detonate when someone comes in contact with the beam of light trigger. We advise you to avoid them or get rid of them at all costs. Updates to derelict spaceships in Alpha 3.16. 12 new crash sites spread across 9 different moons. All new sites are created using the Drake Caterpillar wreckage. Although we reuse some ship section modules, each overall crash site will be unique. Each crash site will contain 2 types of loot. Common loot that can be obtained by simple exploration, and rare loot that's only obtainable after solving exploration puzzles. The tractor beam is sometimes mandatory to solve these puzzles, so arrive well prepared. Some areas are guarded by laser trip mines, so proceed with caution. And I do want to add this point, laser trip mines are not really an issue at the moment, unless you're trying to speed run the area for some reason. They're very obvious where the trip mines are. They're unlikely to surprise you, although I think once players are able to place them in the future, that is going to lead to a lot of more interesting situations, as you can use them as an area of denial or block off areas. At the moment, you can just sort of chuck something through them, blow them up, or just avoid them entirely, but we'll have to wait and see how that evolves. There are a few missions that you can accept to get a marker to visit these locations. Missing crew, black box, cargo retrieval, and timed delivery ones. While you can expect to find these locations throughout missions, the mission objective is only a fraction of what the location has to offer. Explorers who like to examine areas thoroughly will find more rewards within the new crash sites. Our team in Montreal is just warming up with the debut of these new wreck sites. You can expect even more epic points of interest in patches to come. So, just want to sort of mention this. In my last video, I showed a selection of the old and new wrecks, but they've sort of like been semi-updated for new missions in 3.16.1, new things to find in those areas. So it's a mixture of lootable containers, which contain some pretty sweet loot, and just sort of drugs and all those sort of different types of cargo boxes as well that you can bring back. And as they said, if you look around more and get into the hard to get areas and do the traversal puzzles, you're likely to find some much more valuable loot. And remember that these locations overlap for other people's missions as well, so there may be some conflict, there may be some friction if you're at a location for too long, or there might be someone already there when you get there, so sort of just be aware of that. So I do want to talk about some of the additions that we saw in the 3.16.1b PTU patch. So derelict spaceships have had a polish pass, as we've sort of alluded to, adding additional mines around derelict puzzles. They fixed various issues around derelicts, including fixing multiple viz area issues. Collisions and locations where players can get stuck have been largely fixed, or at least partially fixed. They fixed some physics grid problems, some skirts and debris issues. Other than that, there was just some more general bug fixes for the patch, and they reduced the Mustang Delta rocket pod DPS. There's a few sort of known issues that Cloud Imperium are going to want to get solved before 3.16.1 goes live, but you can expect it probably pretty soon, well before the end of the month, in my opinion. So probably end of next week is what it's looking at for me. So between the end of next week and the end of January, sort of between there roughly. So we can potentially expect to see some other ships and vehicles turn up. There might be some other stuff in 3.16.1. We do have the Lunar New Year Red Festival probably coming up again soon at the sort of start to mid of February. I think they did it last year. And then you've got like a middle of March, you've got Stella Fortuna, so they like to release ships and ship skins and variants and things like that around then. So that's a possibility for that new consolidated Outlands new hoverbike, 3.16.1, or a little bit further in the future. And we do know that there's things like the mobile refinery ship that they want to get out at some point. On to something a little bit different. We've got a Starmap rework being talked about. So we do know that Cloud Imperium have been working on a Starmap in the Montreal studio, and sort of updates to that. And CIG's Jake Acapella replied to a thread talking about a Starmap rework, saying, "The Starmap is currently undergoing an overhaul as we speak. Search for map and radar system rework on the progress tracker." And looking at that feature on the progress tracker, we can see that work was planned to be completed on that after a 38-week sprint by the end of December 2021, so Q4 of last year. So that work might be done, or it might not, and we'll talk about that in a second. Jake continued, "We also discussed this a bit on the UI episode of Star Citizen Live, which I'll chuck up on screen for you because it's only a couple of minutes long."
Any updates whatsoever that you can give us on the updated in-game Starmap?
Okay, so it's progressing. It's a really big system. So what we want to do with it, and what we've designed in the background, which we're not showing anybody yet, is this really big system that kind of combines the radar, the Starmap, potentially some of the AR markers, and also the interior map. We think really that should be one thing, essentially. So like Chris Roberts has always had this idea that he wants to be able to start from the radar and zoom out from that, and you can see the star map, and you can zoom out and see the galactic view, essentially. So we've been writing it around that idea. So we've got this really massive design that ties all those systems together, which is pretty cool. We started writing code systems to support that. So we've got. I mean, one thing that's tricky with it, there's all this data from all over the game. So we've got the planets and stuff, we've got the radar data, we've got even things like missiles. We've got to somehow tie that together in a way that we can put into one place. So we spent quite a lot of time working on the tracking system for all that stuff. So that's all good now, and we're kind of at the stage where we want to start building the real thing. So I mean, the challenge is spending the time to fit all that stuff together. So that's something that we've been kind of ticking along in the background, but we're going to start ramping up on that very soon, I think. Couldn't give you a release date, but we're really keen to get it going, and it's moving.
Someone pointed out, as I said earlier, that on the progress tracker, that some of the work appears to be completed for that radar and map sort of overhaul, and asked when we might actually see that update in game. Jake replied again, "The UI team is a downstream team, so their schedule was only made for the current quarter. As of our last publish in December, the Q1 schedule hadn't been completed yet. We'll have this quarter schedule on the progress tracker with our next update. Also, keep in mind, just because a deliverable on the progress tracker ends does not mean the work is complete necessarily." So hopefully we're going to see the Starmap Overhaul in 3.17 or 3.18 sort of thing. I think it's optimistic for 3.17, but 3.18 I do think is a realistic proposition, and I'm keenly awaiting those Starmap updates. Also, the Galactopedia to get integrated into the game. So at some point, I do think that those two together are going to really add a lot more accessibility, immersion, and general fun to the game. The Starmap's very fiddly at the moment. There's loads of problems with it. There's loads of times you don't quantum travel. It doesn't look great. It needs to have a lot more information on it. There's a load they can do with it, and hopefully that Montreal Turbulent Studio is doing great work for that. So I think that's what I'm hoping for. I'm interested to know what you think. Are you excited for a Starmap Overhaul? What do you think that's actually going to give us? Are you happy with the sort of addition of new missions and derelicts for 3.16.1 and those laser trip mines? Or are you like, those are missions I wouldn't do anyway, or it's actually quite a small little thing? I mean, it is only a 3.16.1 patch, so hopefully it will also add a load more stability and accessibility to the game, and 3.16 so far has been pretty good for me. I've been enjoying it, and I've actually been enjoying, to a certain extent, those new derelicts. I do think it adds a little bit more to the game, and as they start to expand out more and more and more and more points of interest in more and more areas, you're actually going to go, there's a huge amount of content. I would like to see a load more ships in-game as derelicts. What would you like to see as a derelict in-game in the next patch or two, beyond the Caterpillar, Starfarer, and Freelancer, which are the main ones that we see? Would you like to see something like the Javelin or the Idris? Whatever your thoughts, I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. What is best in life? To crush your enemies? To see them driven before you? And to hear the lamentations of their women? No, of course not. It's NordVPN. I never saw Conan the Barbarian checking his bank balance and then watching some cool shows on Netflix, all while protecting his privacy and being super secure. To be honest, I can't even remember Conan wearing a shirt. Silly Conan. And now, a big old snake god's got your internet history. Good job. Don't be a Conan the Barbarian. Check out NordVPN. Links below for powerful discounts too. Every month we have a ship giveaway. For January 2022, it's for a Drake Cutlass Steel, a light assault dropship variant of the Cutlass, perfect for attacking Jumptown and similar narcotic processing areas. All you need to do to be in for a chance of winning that Star Citizen ship is comment on any of my videos made during the month. More details down below. If you would like to further support the channel, consider clicking the join button under my videos or becoming a Patreon. Comments, suggestions, likes and shares all help the channel massively too, so always feel welcome to share your opinion or feedback. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you in the verse.